Thank you, Brian. And I want to just thank Northwestern for having me here. It's really great to, it's always fun to come and talk about your work. So I want to talk about automating music listening and understanding. And to begin with, I wanted to say a few words about why I do what I do. First of all, music exists in every human society. And nowadays, computers are ubiquitous around the world in many different forms. I mean, we have lots of computing power. And music has always been a very technological field. If you think about the metallurgy that went into building brass instruments, the mechanical engineering that goes into cast iron reinforced grand piano, organs and all the mechanisms in pipe organs. You know, there's a lot of technology going back. If you want to go back to constructing first musical instruments at least 8,000 years. And so it's no surprise, really, that people look at combining music and computation to see where that goes. And so I think that computing can make music more fun, more available, higher quality, more personal. And this is something that's always fascinated me. And in fact, I kind of started out being very interested in mathematics and music and making things. My dad was an engineer. He had a garage filled with so many tools that there was never a car in the garage because there was no room for it. And I started playing trumpet at age 11 and discovered synthesizers in high school. And of course, well, in my day, these were analog synthesizers. But the idea that you could make sound, that you could really think about a sound as constructed from components like an oscillation and an envelope, a volume control, and some kind of spectral control. And that to me just was an incredible concept and something that I've really, that I think has inspired me and that I've been pursuing my whole life. So I discovered that other people had similar ideas and had actually figured out how to make music with computers when I got to college, and I started reading everything I could. But I think in addition to the technology and studying electrical engineering and computer science, it's really my background as a musician, or at least someone trying to be a musician, and thinking about music has really guided all of the work that I've done in computer music. And I'll try to explain or give some examples of that. So that's my quick introduction. And what I'd like to do is just say a couple of words, because I assume this is a general audience from a lot of different backgrounds. And it's worth a minute, I think, just to think about how technology is actually used in music today. And then I'd like to talk about research. That's what I'm really here for. These are things that I've done, but that a lot of this has yet to appear in any commercial form. So we can think of this as what we can do in the future. And I think that this is going to have a big impact on the way we think about music and produce music in the future. So I'll do a little speculation about how I think things might go, or how I hope things might go. So music today. Well, I think that there are four main areas of where computers are used in music today. The first is, well, these are music production. And so I don't need to say too much about this, I think, except people may not realize that a few decades ago, before we had high-speed computers that were not so expensive, music was produced with all kinds of technology, recording lathes, tape recorders, analog mixers and amplifiers, lots and lots of different specialized components. And all of that has really been replaced by digital computing now. So all music production essentially involves recording digital audio, and once you get it into digital form, it stays on a computer on a disk and gets manipulated, mixed, processed, equalized, reverberated, compressed. It's a totally computer-based process. So that's music production. Another area is musical instruments. So musical instruments also went through the same kind of transition from electrical and electronic devices to specialized hardware like synthesis chips, special purpose chips in synthesizers. And now electronic instruments are almost all software and computer-based. You know, whether it's a conventional looking keyboard or synthesizer or a drum machine or, you know, any one of many exotic looking new devices combining sensors and computers. So that's musical instruments. Yes?
On the spring, I'm just really curious about that.
Oh, yeah, this is called the sonic spring. It's by Tomas Enriquez, a colleague of mine. And there are some push buttons here. There are some, I'm trying to think what kind of sensors to call it. Anyway, tension sensors, as well as accelerometers for tilt. So this device gives you something physical to hold on to and senses many different aspects of gesture. And it's used to, it's connected to typically a MIDI-based synthesizer, but it allows him to control many parameters.
So it's an input device kind of reminiscent of accordions?
Yeah, he doesn't really, you could do that. He's a trombone player, and he doesn't use accordion-like gestures to play this, but it was sort of inspired by those kinds of instruments. Okay, so the third area I wanted to mention is music distribution. So I think it's pretty obvious now that, well, since around 2000, the music industry has been really changed by the fact that we can now distribute music over networks rather than putting them onto compact discs or some other physical medium and, you know, putting them on trucks and doing the traditional kind of marketing. And so that's really changed the way people get music, and it's really changed many of the marketing aspects of music. And in fact, that's led to the third area I want to mention, which is this kind of a broad area of search, recommendation, music fingerprinting. So these, you know, once people could access music online, suddenly everyone had access to millions of songs. And whereas before that, maybe you could look in catalogs and find things, but most people probably went to a record store, and whatever the inventory was in the record store, whatever they heard on the carefully controlled top 40 list of the radio, which the recording industries, you know, use payola to control. Once that kind of controlled inventory was destroyed and everybody had access to everything, then there was this new problem of how does anyone find anything and how does marketing work and so on. And so a lot of very interesting technology has grown up around that. So new methods of searching for music, doing music recommendation, sometimes based on content, sometimes based on human annotations of data, which is like, for example, the Pandora system. And music fingerprinting refers to this technology where if you hear something you like and you want to know what it is, you can dial a number and basically transmit that audio to a server somewhere which can use this incredible technology to search tens of millions of songs and of recordings and find exactly the recording that you're listening to at that moment. And so that's kind of all of this has happened really in the last 15 years. So those are what I think of as the main technologies that are out there in use today. And so I want to talk about things that are a little more obscure. And there are lots of things I could talk about, things that Brian does here and researchers all over the world doing interesting things. But of course, I'm going to talk about my own personal work as examples because I know it the best. And I have a number of topics I want to talk about, so I'm just going to, time is limited, so I'll just jump into it, and we'll start with computer accompaniment. So computer accompaniment is really where I got started in computer music research. And the idea of computer accompaniment is that if you would like to play music with a computer, in the old days, and actually it's still pretty common now, you would make some computer music and put it on tape or a CD or a file or something, but it would be what we call a fixed medium, fixed music. And if a human wanted to play, if you wanted to write something for a computer and human, the human would have to listen to the music and synchronize to the music. And to me, as a musician, that just felt wrong. If I'm the human, I should be the featured soloist, and the computer should be listening to me and playing along with me. And so that was the idea of computer accompaniment, is just get computers to listen to live performers and synchronize to them. So I have a video demonstration of that. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to skip the intro and just jump into it. So this is video based on some very early work. This program was completed in 1985, and it was based on work that was really done in 1984. The video is a little bit newer than that, but not that much newer. And so here's an example. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm playing trumpet, computer is listening, it's playing along, and it's not improvising in any way. It has a score. That one was written by Bach, and so all it has to do is listen to me and play along. So I want to play another. Yeah, this is good. Okay, so this is the same program, but I'm intentionally going to make a lot of mistakes and sort of do a torture test for the computer just to demonstrate that it's not me following it, it's following me. Let's try this again. Okay, so just to give you a brief idea of what's going on here, there's a performance. This is the trumpet. It's being processed and analyzed by, in that example, an external device that's trying to detect the pitch that's being played. So every note is being fed into a a subsystem that's matching what I play against the score. And the trick there is to do that matching reliably and robustly so that when I make mistakes, it doesn't get lost. And so there's some interesting, for the computer scientists, there's some interesting algorithms in there based on dynamic programming. And then there's the other half of the system is the accompaniment performance, where once you think you know where the player is and has been, you can try to estimate the tempo and try to schedule and synchronize the accompaniment in a musical way. So that's basically what's going on there. I'm going to skip over some details and just play another example or some later work in accompaniment. This was mostly done by my student Lauren Grubb. We found he wanted to work on accompanying vocalists, and we discovered that those techniques that I use for trumpet work great for valved instruments. They work great for MIDI keyboards and things that have very discrete pitches. But vocalists' pitches are not, they don't change in sudden steps like instruments with valves and keys. There's a lot of slurring, there's wide vibrato, and so it's a very difficult problem to follow vocalists. And this resulted in some new representations of what was being sung or what was being listened to. It's a more probabilistic, statistical-based system. And I'll just play a little bit because I thought this was a nice performance. And so what's going on here is this singer is singing into a microphone. So that's the only input to the computer. And the computer is playing the piano that you hear in the background. Another thing that this led to was a company that now is Make Music, is the name of the company. And they were interested in building educational applications for music. And interesting thing is the guy that started this off wrote a business plan that included computer accompaniment, that kids would have more fun practicing music if the computer could accompany them. He had no idea how to do it. He just, out of the blue, wrote this as his business plan, said, okay, I'll just go find somebody to do this. And through some fortunate introductions, he came out and saw my work and just sort of couldn't believe it. He said, this is what I've been dreaming about. This is what I want to do for a product. I've got the business plan, and let's do it. And so we did, and Make Music is now, I believe, being used by over 100,000 students. It's been a long, difficult road because it's such a different kind of product. It's, the Make Music spent years just trying to explain to people what computer accompaniment was. It's not a CD player. It's not a synthesizer. No, it accompanies you. So. Anyway, that's, I would normally talk more about that, but what I want to do now is try to give a live demonstration. And this is some software that's just come together in the last week or so. So it's a little rough, but I think this is going to work. And it's,
it is a demo in front of people.
Yeah, no, but we'll see what happens. So there are actually three components going on here. There's the thing on the upper left is a pitch, a little program that's running some very low quality pitch estimation. That was kind of the last thing I threw together. And the screen under it is running the score follower that's following, and then this is a little sequencer that we put together. And oh, I forgot to, nah, okay. So we will see what happens here. This is an aria from a violin piece by Sinai, transcribed for trumpet. Okay, well, thank you. We got through it. It's a long piece with no rest to come in cold on, I just realized. So let's move on to something else. People ask me often when I was first showing this, what would happen if you, instead of playing the score, if you improvised? And the answer was always kind of disappointing. Nothing interesting could happen because all the computer can do is either match what you're playing and know where you are, or not match what you're playing and not know where you are. But it got me thinking about what's going on in improvisation and how a computer could actually communicate and listen to an improviser. And that resulted in this system where we thought that an interesting thing to listen to and understand about a jazz performance would be something about the style. So, you know, if I'm playing with a rhythm section and I start to play a lot of notes and start playing higher and louder, I'd kind of like to be supported by the rhythm section by having them play more energetically. And similarly, if I started to relax and play long lines, I don't want the drummer and everyone else to be going crazy. I want them to reflect what I'm doing. And so similarly, if you want to play with a computer, the computer's got to understand something about the style that you're playing. And so we tried to build a system that could do that. And this is, well, I'll tell you a little about how it works after I show it. So this is a program that's just listening to live trumpet, again me, and putting up on the screen one of 4 or 5 different styles. Always gets this one right eventually. The rest. The reason for the delay there is the system is looking at windows in time of about 5 seconds long, and it's sliding this window along, analyzing a number of different features like the note, how many notes there are, mean and standard deviation of pitch range, and lots of other just very low-level features or attributes. And it's using a machine learning system that's been trained on many examples of playing frantically, playing pointillistically. So it doesn't really matter what those words mean. The only thing that matters is that when I trained the system, I gave it examples of styles and I gave it a label. And the machine has learned that when it hears stuff like that again, it can spit out the same label. So I want to move on to yes?
So was the thought that having that recognition style could lead to different ways to accompany? I mean, was there, when you decided to pick those out, was that like, that could be enabling for something else?
Yeah, so in fact, since you asked, let me jump to a piece. Yeah, here we go. So this is a piece I composed that's based on using that as the input. And the idea of the piece is the computer interacts with the player by generating material that's appropriate for that playing style. So let me play a little of this. So let's see what happens.